static.
For the secured roll, it may be. There may be maybe a 2% increase, but at this point, it's difficult to say.
You know, in our Board of Equalization hearings, things are running down from 15 to 20%, so I think this is pretty optimistic projections.
Well, there's an automatic 2% that happens. So what I'm hoping is that the overall reductions that the Board of Equalization is approving or hearing will be offset by the 2% inflationary. And there are some properties that are changing hands, and much of those that are changing hands are on the tax rolls at less than what they're selling for. So there is a little bit of increase there that's happening.
Supervisor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to our auditor controller, the additional sheet we just received, is that where we are now with the discussion, or am I premature to?
No, I've referred to that already in both spreadsheets.
I thought that you had. I think it would be good for you to spend just a small amount of time to talking about where we're coming in under budget, so the public just has, I think we've got about 8 or so categories here. Mm-hmm. Because of the difficult decision-making we're faced with, I think just mentioning going over each of those categories so the public has the full view of where we're seeing this revenue shortage coming from.
Certainly. The particular line items that are projected to be under budget are supplemental taxes to the tune of $350,000, penalties and cost on delinquent taxes, some $80,000, sales tax, the county's 1% share, $140,000, public safety sales tax, $350,000, timber yield tax, which is perpetually less than what we budget just because of we can't really project what it's going to be. That's down $15,000. Room occupancy tax, we expect approximately $300,000 less. That's a reflection of the economy. And property transfer tax down $150,000 due again to the lagging economy and properties not particularly changing hands. And interest income down $240,000, primarily due to the absence of cash on hand because the state is delaying its payments to us. And the reduced revenues as well. I mean, there's twofold hit to interest there.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one other thing too. I should point out that my numbers are a little bit different from Jennifer's. In her presentation in Budget Unit 1000, because the geothermal lease money, there was another $80,000 that came in after the CEO had requested that I report back on the Budget Unit 1000, and I included it in my numbers, but they're not necessarily in Jennifer's numbers.
And just a quick footnote, the reason why your numbers might still be conservative for us is because we didn't have the rapid run-up in assessed valuation for those areas that had a housing boom in the last several years.
Correct. Yeah, we have no huge housing developments going on.
So our exposure is relatively limited on the property tax.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
That's my piece of it.
Okay. Jennifer, who's next here?
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Jennifer Wyatt, Deputy CEO. Before I begin the presentation on some of the documents for the mid-year update and starting with the state budget impacts, I'd like to refer the board to the packet of information that you have in your binders, just so that we're all acclimated and looking at the same documents. Starting with the Index B, which is what I'll be reporting on next, this is your state budget proposal. And I provided to you some information as of the Governor's January state budget proposal, and then I also be giving you some updates on the latest information, as this information seems to change on a day-to-day basis, so we're doing the best we can to try to keep up with it. In your Index C, this is where you will find the second quarter mid-year budget update bullet points, summary of information. In the back of that, you will see a worksheet that is labeled Summary Recap, which is where the information that is stated on the bullet points is coming from. I've also attached, just because I wanted the new board members to see where the information is coming from, so it's basically for their information as well, I attached the detailed spreadsheet of how this information comes together before it gets put on the summary recap. And then in the back of that, I've attached all of the documents coming out of our Munis finance system based on information that has to be pulled by the series, 1,000, 2,000, et cetera, right out of the Munis finance system where the actual original data source document information is coming from, as well as information for the public. This information, however, is not on our county CEO website because it's just too much information, but it can be available for public viewing if anybody wants to have copies of that from the public. All the rest of this documents and information are on our county website as we speak.
Jennifer, are you going to take us through this, the tab C, the second quarter mid-year budget update? Are you going to kind of...
Yes, I
go
just
through
wanted
that
to
real
give
briefly?
everybody an
Okay.
acclamation of what's in the binder to start with.
That's the real meat of the pie right there.
Okay,
The second-
so starting with the Exhibit B, which is our governor's January state budget proposal. As you know, what I provided at the time that we knew was the 18-month 2009-10 January proposed budget as it was stated by the governor. The executive office, however, has received more information on a daily basis almost, and as our CEO Tom Mitchell has reported out, the governor did, in fact, they did come to an agreement. The budget has been reviewed by the legislators and is approved, and the governor has done some additional veto line items as well. The executive office, because of this information coming to us at the last minute, has not had a chance to look at those vetoed line items and has not provided any information today for the boards or the public as to what those impacts would mean. We do know that up front that there's no slate for cuts at this time for the Williamson Act, as well as in the library and public safety departments, or public safety programs, I should say. And this is primarily due to some information that I'm providing here, so I'm going to start forward briefly. I initially put some information here regarding some of the cash deferrals proposed in the January proposed state budget. As we know right now, those cash deferrals still may be in effect, as we don't know the actual impacts as to what kind of delays in cash we're looking at this point. It's also anticipated, coming from the legislative advocates as well as some from our contacts at the state level, that this budget, probably after looking in, the state may be looking at reviewing and revising what they have proposed even to this day, because of the revenue estimates that are be coming in probably in May. We know that a lot of the changes from the January proposed budget, as far as revenue changes, are basically going to be looked at on the May 19th special election. Subject to change if the voters do not approve some of these changes and the revenue increases, as I'm going to detail. We could be looking at reviewing the budget all over again, starting from square one. We just don't know. So I've stated, going down the line, the cash deferrals, and I might note to the board that these cash deferrals that I've stated here are also the cash deferrals that we initially had stated in our board support letter to the state to delay some of these deferrals. So it's the same exact information. So I won't go into a lot of detail on that. So moving to the second page, in general government finance, the January proposal talks about state mandates, and the budget proposes an increase of $131 million for current state reimbursable mandates. Mendocino County currently has approximately $4 million in mandates not paid by the state at this point. If you recall, they are looking at, the state is looking at repayment of these mandates within a 15-year period, so it's undetermined when we'll ever get repaid on some of these mandates. Moving down, and by the way, if the board has any questions as I go along, please stop me. I'm kind of moving forward a little quick, but some of this information you already know.